sit right next to you, almost touching you. Which you probably like, so, you know. Really?
Listening to you brings me so much joy.
I feel dirty. I feel used and touched.
I'm totally putting this in the video.
You are not putting this in the video.
Totally. You ready?
No. Just been violated. On camera. The mutants are coming, and some of us might actually outlive this. Some of us haven't.
Make sure you stick around to the end to find out what the value of this game is and what our BGG rating is. And if you haven't subscribed, click that little button down below. We really appreciate it. We're up to 1,700, a little over 1,700 people now, and pretty awesome. So
yeah, we're glad you guys are here.
Let's get to it. Hello! Welcome to Bad at Board Games.
Well, he's bad at board games.
I'm Brad Lake.
I'm Topher Ferguson.
We're bad at board games, so you don't have to be. Today, we're going to be talking about
Resurgence.
What's Resurgence about?
Resurgence takes place in an alternate 1900s Moscow. It's an alternate history because, well, the great superpowers of the world have pretty much nuked each other. And now, those of us that are trying to survive are kind of held up in our compounds, seeking out other survivors, doing our best to complete missions, and live. Up above are mutants.
Scary.
I know, right? It's kind of like sitting next to this guy. So Resurgence is a recent game. It came out through Kickstarter. It has recently shipped. We've been able to play it. It is a game designed by Stan Kordonskiy, and it is published by Half a Kingdom Games.
Mm-hmm. They're out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I used to live for many, many, many years. So thought that was kind of cool. And Stan also made Endless Winter, which has been on the hotness for quite some time now, as monstrous worker placement.
Tell us a little bit about what it looks like.
I really like the way the appearance is. I thought, you know, it's not over the top. It's not minimalistic. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. It's not cartoonish, but it's not, you know, realistic. It's this somewhere in between. I like the way they've made the cards and the people. I like the way they've made the mutants, the board. It's got different sections of color with the buildings underneath that, and that's part of your worker placement tug of war, you know, trying to restrict you where you can and can't go. You know, it's this post-apocalyptic
Say that 2 times
future.
fast.
And so, you know, it has this nice feel. You know, you kind of look at this and you're like, oh yeah, you know, I can see that, and I can understand that theme. And, you know, you can even see, you know, just the wolves and the people on the cards here, and we'll throw some B-roll over that. I think it all works real well. I personally like it. I think it's well done.
Yeah. As we've alluded to already, it is a worker placement game. So you are going to have that little bit of give and take. However, it is not to the same degree of worker placement as you would normally see with completely restricting somebody from being able to go to a location. One thing about this that's going to make it kind of a little bit over the top in terms of worker placement is that it's also a bag builder. And what you are drawing, you are actually having to program or to be able to kind of secretly deploy what it is that you are placing out into the board itself. So the workers that are going into the bag all have different levels. You've got your basic workers, you've got your specialist, and then you've got your commander or your leader. And depending on the board, on the spaces on the board, dictates what type of worker or person can be played there. So you have this restriction not so much between the players, and I can go the same places that he has gone. It might cost me a little bit more in terms of resource cost to go there, but I'm not limited to that. What I'm limited to is what am I pulling out of my bag? And then how am I going to program them in a way that they're going to work on the board? The board has 3 locations. On the actual player board itself, there are 2. There's the harbor side, which is the bottom of Moscow that you see here, and the top is the metro side. And so as you are programming your pieces, you're putting them on your hidden board behind a screen so that your opponents are not able to know where you're putting them, and you are actually having to put those specific type of workers in the location you want them to go. You are sending them to the board to these locations, but you also have your compound in front of you, and this is your own private play area. And so you can actually send your workers to your board as well, but you're not able to, once you program them, change the location of where it is that they're going to go on the board. So you do have a little bit of this kind of hidden role aspect to it. Now, you are going to show everybody what you have before you actually start the turns, but you have a little bit of the hidden aspect of it. It's also an objective-based game, so you are going to be collecting objectives as you play. You're going to be putting them into your tableau, and then you're going to work on trying to complete those objectives to give you more bonuses of some kind, usually resources, but some bonuses. You also have with that end game bonuses. So not only are you working on your objectives as you go, you're also taking a look at what is the end game. You have some end game cards that's going to give you bonuses, but throughout the entire board, and especially your tableau, you have other areas that you can actually work to gain these victory points, these bonuses at the end of the game. So a little bit of a lot of mechanics thrown into one, but in short, bag builder worker placement with a hidden aspect.
Yeah. And I would say that's what interested me when it got Kickstarted about a year ago, and I got it in a year, which I thought was awesome. They were right on time, not super communicative, but like everything else flowed, and it just showed up. And I'm like, oh, I wasn't even expecting it, honestly. But the hidden worker placement across the 3 different areas that Toph was talking about intrigued me with the worker placement, Euro-ish, and then mixed with these other elements. So on the board, it's not just you've got those 2 sections, but then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colors of restrictions as well. And so it gets real interesting in just how all of that works, and being able to upgrade. You've got different level of workers, the basic worker, a medic, an engineer, a pilot, and then you've got your commander, and then you can continue to buy cards. All of that mixed together, I'm like, that was pretty cool. And stick around to the end where you'll hear the value proposition, how much for what you're getting is really good.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of, I think, replayability, because you do have the chaos, if you will, of kind of where the workers are going to be able to go. Because again, those different type of workers are going to be dictated on the board as to where they can actually do their actions. But you have a ton of missions. You have a ton of other things that are coming through. So it's not just doing the exact same mechanic over and over and over again, game after game after game. There's a lot of tactical play. Brad and I talk a lot about tactical versus strategic gameplay. I'm a tactical play. He's a strategic player. There's a lot of that tactical play in this, of reacting to what is coming up that's different in this game. And I think that is long-term going to be a good aspect to a game that's not heavy in terms of mechanics, but lots of mechanics all working together. So.
Yeah. And I will kind of get into some of our pros. I think that's one of the pros, and it's interesting. Like, I usually like saying, like, okay, I'm going to go get this car in Combine EV or something. Right. And I may or may not get the best points, but I work my way to get that car. This, you're not doing that. It's whatever you pull out. It's whatever, you have at the moment, and even at each play. You're not going to play this like chess and see 10 moves ahead. And it's probably a good game for me to help get me into that mode of being able to play in the moment, what's there, and then look at those longer term actions. So I like it for that standpoint. That's one of my pros. What's one of your pros?
Oh my goodness. Definitely having so many. I think the bag builder aspect of it, like that's one of the things that I really like, and especially trying to think about the theme mixed with it. You have these different workers. You don't know who's going to be available on a given round. So kind of that, oh my gosh, I have to react right away to what it is that I have. And then really taking a look at the board and see, okay, it's limited resources. What do I have the resources to be able to do? I like that tactical aspect of it. I like having to sit and say, I can't do what I want to do. Let me make the best of the situation that I have and be able to make that play out well.
Yeah, and the game fights back a little bit because they have mutants that go in certain areas, which are now going to make it cost a resource to go where they're at. And then if your opponent goes there, now it's 2 resources before you can go there. So, that's constantly changing, and you have some in mission objectives. So that's another one of my pros. Like, I agree with everything with what Toph said with the bag builder. I like the hidden placement about where you're going to place your workers. And then you basically get some points or some bonuses if you put more of your workers in that section than your opponent did. But if you both tie, you're only going to maybe get to move one bonus up versus 2 bonuses up, things like that. So that was another one of my pros. You got any other? I mean, I have more. I just figured we kind of go back and forth a little bit.
I mean, there's quite a bit of them. One of the things that I do like about the board is the quality of it, the component of it, not just the actual player boards itself, but the pieces. The fact that the pieces, I mean, the starting player piece is very unique. It's not just a square chit that you have in front of you. This is actually detailed and carved, and all of the wooden pieces components in this are all silk screened. Like, that's just a good thing. I enjoy upgrades. I like upgrading my games. This isn't one that you would have to upgrade because it already is good quality in terms of it.
And I hope, and this was part of the Kickstarter, I know these were what they unlocked, but I don't think it's necessarily Kickstarter exclusive. I think that this might be the game you can get. So you just want to check that before you buy it, if that's what you're interested in. But I don't believe that it's Kickstarter exclusive. It just this is what came with the game. So yeah, I have a lot of good things. We could probably keep going.
I mean, yeah, some of the things, I'm going to cut you off, but some of the things that I do like are round missions. Every round, there's only 6 rounds. It is not a long game. Every round, you're going to have a new mission that's going to come out, and this briefing is going to either hurt you or help you. I don't think it's anything in between. I think it's either you're going to be screwed because they're going to block something very good, or it's going to cost something more, or you're not going to be able to gain the objective bonuses, not objective bonuses, the leadership bonuses as you go. There's so many different things that we've seen pop up with these, and it's a way to tell and drive a story. And I do like stories in games, so I think that's a really good kind of fun part of it when you remember to do that.
Yep. It's interesting. One of my other pros is I would say it's kind of easy. It's not super easy. It's not checkers, but at the same time, it's not Lacerda, right? So it's easy to learn, and the hard to master, I would say it's just more about it's tight. I like a tight game. I don't necessarily like point salad games where, if you could be 50 points away from each other and it's still like that could be a close game because you had 200 and some points, right? This is not.
Terracotta Army.
Yeah. But this is nice in a nice tight game. So if you lose by 5 or 10, that still feels like it was a well fought, battle, right? And trying to manipulate things and move things through. So that's another one of my pros. But
yeah, I think another thing I like about it is theme, and we might disagree on this a little bit. Again, the story aspect of it, I do see it in some areas, and where I see it, I like it. The missions that you are doing, they tell you what you're doing. Either you're delivering a message, or you're oh goodness gracious, we've got them everywhere. Treating radiation sickness. So to see the objective cards not just say objective, but actually what it is that you're doing. Now, what's underneath of it makes no sense really, but the actual theme of it, like the title of it, that works. Your compound, it starts locked. You have to build out these rooms. I think that is kind of a very fitting, fun thing for it when you think about it.
Yeah. And I'll go drop into my cons because I don't think this, and I love theme. Theme is what got me to buy the game. That and this interesting mechanic thing. This is definitely one of those games where I like playing the game and I almost don't see the theme as I'm playing it. I'm like, I see a face that's like this and I want to do that. And okay, I need a bullet and a gear and a drop of fuel to then turn this mission in to get this back. So for me, I don't think the theme is all that like intertwined and needed. I'm not saying it's pasted on either, but there's definitely like, hey, I've got this cool mechanic. How am I going to make a game that people would want to buy at?
Yeah.
In my opinion, is probably more what happened. But I like the theme. Theme's what got me to buy it. But as I'm playing it, I like it for the mechanics.
Yeah. And I think that's
my con.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've got another con. Can I throw this one out?
Yeah.
It is way too small. Like, my eyesight is bad, but it's not terrible. I'm not 85 like he is with 5,000-year-old eyes. I mean, literally, we sit at a game playing a game and Brad reads like this. I'm sitting 2 feet away from it and I cannot see these circles. They're just, the board is fine, but the icons are just too small to be able to actually not have to look at it. I mean, the top of the board, you have these survivors that come out, their cards. And every time we replenished them, I had to take a photo of it so that I could pull it back and actually zoom in to take a look at what each of the icons on the things mean. That's a con for me. You know, they did good things with accessibility in terms of all these spaces are different colors and, you know, there's good things with that, but then all of a sudden you can't see actually what the spaces are from 1.5 feet away. I think that's a con.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting old, but.
No, I would agree. I think things could be, I think in general, when you think about colors and size and the group of people that are playing board games, you know.
We're not getting younger.
All those things come into play. However, I would say probably some of that is to go along with the price. It's, you know,
yes.
Although I think they could definitely make this stuff bigger. Designers want to make it look pretty versus, you know, necessarily making things larger to make it easier for players to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So you always have that balance. The designer probably won in this case.
I could see that. You know, you think of a game that's icon heavy, which that's a big thing now. And that's another part of accessibility. Because there's not text that's on this can easily be translated with just a rule book that tells you this icon means this in a different language. That's fantastic. But when you do something like that, let's go to Lacerda. You look at a Lacerda game, it's so icon heavy. You have to know what those icons mean, but you can see those icons because the board is twice the size of this one.
Right.
Now, it fits in this beautiful little box. So there are some benefits to it being small, but this board is half the size of any of the Lacerda games that we have seen.
Yeah.
Really any game board. I mean, Scythe is twice the size of this.
Yeah.
And so that's, yeah, that could be improved. Be prepared to look closely until maybe once we get to know the game. You know, if we play 10, 15 games, maybe we'll know where everything is right away. But I'm apparently getting old and my eyes are getting worse.
That's one of your cons.
That's a big con for me.
So my con is more, there's a mechanic where you're completing missions and it seems to interrupt the flow of play. So I kind of like it when it's like, I go get my resource, do my thing, Toph goes, and it goes back and forth. But as soon as it's like, oh crap, I forgot right on this last turn that I went to the green space here because I was really thinking about more. I'm going to the red space within the green space. And oh yeah, that mission meant I was able to complete that mission. Now the game has to stop. I have to then figure out, oh, I have to pay a bullet and I have to pay some medicine to then get 3 victory points that I have to do right now. And then I'm going to move up over here. It stops the flow. Yeah. And I wish it was a little bit easier to just put the missions down the bottom in a way that like, I'm going to complete that once I'm done, you know, in the cleanup phase. And they have a cleanup phase, but you do something secondary with the missions. So I know why you have to interrupt the play. I just wish it didn't interrupt the play. And it was something everybody did simultaneously. Everybody score their missions now. Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. Because as you're doing it in the middle of this nice little back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that slows the game down.
Yeah.
And so it takes you away from what you were going to plan on doing, you know, to do this thing. So, you know, that would be that's my biggest pet peeve. And it's, you know, not a huge pet peeve, but it, you know, I just think it interrupts the flow.
It's not a natural idea. And that's where the theme isn't showing as well in gameplay for you to remember, oh, I'm going to Kremlin because that's where I have to go to complete this mission. And so now I'm going to do this. You know,
you'll remember that's a mission you have.
Yeah. It makes sense. You got to spend the resources because later you could get the resources to complete the mission that you tried to complete earlier. You know, it makes sense, but it just doesn't make sense in terms of how it plays. That's not how our brains think in terms of what to do. I agree completely with that, Brad. Yeah, I do.
You got any other cons?
Honestly, I don't really. You know, I think with this, I have more positives than I have negatives. Mm-hmm. Here's going to be one. There's only 6 rounds. And it takes, because it's so limited resource, it takes so long to upgrade your board, which would be leveling up your compound to a better, stronger compound, that you're not being able to do the higher benefit stuff really in gameplay. It's either you focus on building out your tableau, or you focus on missions, or you focus on something else. We want an even mix of all of that. I wish there was another round or two. I'm not saying we need a lot of play, but it is not easy to upgrade to be able to do those. Like, for example, the advanced missions you can't get to until you're at level 3. We weren't at level 3 until the later part of the game, which makes sense. But once you get there, now you can't do anything with that. Yeah. That's a little bit of a negative.
Yeah, but I think at the same time, it's, you want more, so that can always be a good thing.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, I just wish I had a little bit more. You know, that's probably why it's tight.
Yeah.
That's when we say it's tight, it's like you've got 6 rounds and the game's over and you're in turn 4 or 5 and you're like, oh crap, I only got one more round, right? Like it feels like it happens fast, which is a pro.
But I also feel like I can't do half the game.
And you're like you might get funneled to be like, you're gonna have to play missions to win the game. So then what does that take you out of? And you want to do so much and you're like, you're limited.
Yeah.
You really are. So let's get into the weight.
Yes. So BGG is rating this at 2.67, which I think is quite accurate. I think it's a game that has a lot of things going on, but there's not a lot of complexity in those things going on. So where this is a medium weight game, I think this is exactly a medium weight game, maybe a little bit above that. So I agree completely with the 2.67. I might have said 2.75. Those round out to be about the same. So yeah, I think that is fitting. I think you said it well. This is an easy game to learn, but maybe a hard game to master. And I think that is exactly what it is. We played it right away, and it made sense right away. We might have missed a couple things here or there, but minor things. Now the challenge is going to come as we play it more. How do we, the game that we played, this last game, you had 67 or 68 points and I had 70. Or no, you have 58 or 50
about
something.
15 points,
it was less than 15 points, in terms of the spread, which I feel is a pretty close game. There was a moment where I thought I was really far away, and then all of a sudden you picked up a couple missions quickly and you came right back in within a couple points. So, I think it's going to take some time to learn how to play very efficiently. But I don't think you need to play very efficiently. You only have 6 rounds. As long as everybody's on the same playing board, I think it's perfectly fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the value now, they're saying it was going to be $60 at retail. I haven't looked at retail. I paid $55 for it for Kickstarter, and then whatever shipping was. I'm sure it's like $10 or something like that at the time. My value rating, if this would have been $100, this would have been a value of 1. There's not enough. It's not cool. There's no miniatures. It's not a giant box. It's not super deep and a heavy game to afford that kind of price tag. Now, if this would have been a $25 game, I'd say this is a 5 out of 5. So just trying to give you an idea of like the value rating and how I look at this and the experience after we've played it a few times, right? So the theme is cool. But when you play it, the theme doesn't come out, right? So there's a ding on the experience. Like when we play Nemesis, it's just dripping in theme. Yeah. We have fun playing a board game of that movie Alien, right? So it's all embedded in that, no matter how badly I'm walking around wounded or he dies early or anything like that, right? So for this mechanic of a game that I enjoyed, I would say this is a 4 out of 5. So, and if it is $60, I might ding it to that 3.5, but it's still better than average. I think the experience you're getting out of this, you're going to be able to play it in about an hour with 2 people, or maybe even 45 minutes after you've played it a few times and be like, okay, I know that. Like you could really start to hum through this, and maybe in a couple hours you could probably play 2 games. More people slow things down, but like that's nice. Yeah. We get bogged down into like these games that take us hours play, and we love those games, but it's hard for us to find some games that we like that feel thanky but don't like kill you. So that 5 turns, 6 turns, whatever it is a blessing and a curse. Yeah. but yeah, so I think it's think it's about that 3.5. So,
Okay.
where are we at with our ratings?
Yeah. I feel like I know exactly where I want to put this. My fear is if I play
In
it
the
a
garbage?
good... No, negative.
Oh,
It's not going in the garbage. I do have a fear that maybe my rating value might come down if we do play it quite a bit and we don't find that replayability. That's always going to happen, obviously, with games. But I've been known to like a worker placement game. Or
Couple.
50. And so, you know, I like that. I don't like hidden movement, but I do like the hidden aspect of this. I like the bag builder aspect of it because it does introduce what I call chaos into the game. I don't want to say it's just luck. It's not luck. It is tactical play from not knowing what's coming out resource-wise. So I really like that. And I did enjoy that there is a little bit of theme here, even though if I didn't think about the theme as I was playing it. There is kind of that aspect of every time you do a round upkeep and you're putting new monsters out on the board to see where those, they're not zombies, what are they? Mutants are coming out. You get a little bit of that chaos with it. You know, those kind of things are fun. So I am giving it an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure you were going to give it that high.
I debated between a 7 and an 8. And I think what threw it over for me was that there's just so much going on and that I do like tactical play, that the fact that I'm not just taking all of my pieces and going out onto the board, but I'm having to react to what I'm pulling out of the bag, that is where I enjoy kind of the more mechanical side of playing this game. So yeah, that bumped it up for me.
And an 8 on BGG, I forget, what is that?
8 out of 10.
Always willing to play or asking to play it?
It is, I believe I'm always willing to play. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, it depending on how we play it, if it turns out to be the same, where we're kind of frustrated because we're never getting into the advanced missions, or we don't find that replayability, it probably would go down towards a 7. But this is the bag builder and the programming aspect of it. That is what's bumping it up for me.
Yeah. So on my side of it, I kept debating. I'm like, I know it's over a 7. That's not even a question. But I'm like, do I put it at 7 or do I put it at an 8? 8 kind of has 8 or 9. Like I want to start really feeling the theme. But I like this mechanic. I like price for the mechanic too.
That's another reason why mine's an 8.
Yeah, and so I think because of the value, because of what you pay, and don't go out and overpay for this for sure. But you know, I am thinking about how much I paid for it and what I'm getting for it, and it was like, oh, I got to play it pretty quickly. So even if you play it a few times, you know, I'm getting my money back out of it fairly quickly, which I like. So it's going to be an 8 for me as well. I like it. I mean, I was like, oh, well, this is a 7.5, but like, I want to ask people to play this. Yeah. You know, I'm at that, you know, if it really gave me a dripping theme, I'd probably bump this up to a 9, but is it going to be 10, 20 plays? I don't know. So I can't quite go there. I wasn't like, oh, best game ever. You know, like it's going to have to like feel like that before I would do that. So this is definitely, I think this is a solid 8. Will it drop to a 7.5 next year? We'll see. Yeah. But hopefully it gives you an idea of, you know, where we're at.
I like the fact, so we never talk about what our ratings are until we're doing the video live, which the anxiety of me, I'd rather know before we go into it, but it is kind of fun. I thought you would have put this at a 7. I didn't think you were like, I was like, maybe a 7. It might be a little bit lower than that. Cause I didn't feel like, I felt like you had more cons than you had pros in gameplay, not in what we just talked about, but as we're playing it, that I was like, I think I'm enjoying it a lot more than you are. And so I thought maybe a matter of expectations versus reality, that you had this expectation when you talked about this game.
Oh, I had a high expectation for this game.
You did. You talked about this so much more than so many other games that you have ordered, especially Kickstarter. I don't do Kickstarter, but the fact that you talked about this and you were like, you're gonna like it, we got to play it, and then it came in, you're like, okay, we got to play it, we got to bring it to the table, and I just felt like you might have been let down, and so it would have come down a lot more.
Well, and that's why we play a couple times, right? Is to get over that. But like for me, this is different because like I like the mechanic, right? And so like that's not often I will just say that. right? Like I like the theme and the mechanic, and one leads into the other, and the theme is always something that brings it. I just liked playing this. I liked this little whatever it was puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, I almost think that gets overused, but like we'll call it a puzzle. You know, I like.
Well, it's a Euro game.
Yeah.
Do this to this to this to get this.
Yeah, and I like Euro games, and this is a lighter Euro game in that standpoint. So, you know, I enjoyed it. You know, I want to play it again to try to beat him. You know, like that's the thing.
I think your boys are going to like this.
Possible.
I think they would.
It's possible.
You know, it's lighter weight than I think some of the games that they like to play. I feel like they, especially combat side, they like that a little bit more. But this plays quick. I think it'll be kind of maybe a hit or miss with our gaming group. I think more people will like it, but I think your boys would like it. I think they'd enjoy playing it, and it'd be fun. I want to play it with more than just two. I want to see what else happens on the board with more people.
Yeah, definitely. It'll cost a lot more with more players.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that will change my. Yeah, I wonder if that'll change my rating. You know, this is a solo game as well, so I'd like to know how it plays solo, but it plays well at 2. I am nervous if my rating is going to go down if I'm playing at 3 or 4. Like, is it going to be that much more of a struggle? So I don't know.
We'll give you a little short 1-minute update
down the road
in a few months and let you know what we think.
Yeah, are we still playing it? Have we sold it? Yeah.
Anyway, so no matter how you're playing, if you're playing solo, with family or friends,
enjoy whatever games you are bringing to the table.
Have a great night.